El Clásico, Barcelona versus Real Madrid. Start with the Supernova. This isn't just Spain's marquee fixture, it's the club match the whole planet schedules around. Two sides that mirror Spain's own split screen. Madrid, the capital's crown and center. Barcelona, standard bearer for Catalan language, culture and a long independence drumbeat. So every meeting is more than league business. It's politics, pride and personal identity colliding at full speed. The rivalry's scar tissue is real. Under Franco's dictatorship, Real Madrid was embraced as the state's emblem while Barca was muzzled. The low point, 1943's Copa del Generalissimo semi, when Barca were battered 11-1 amid intimidation, one of the darkest chapters in their shared history. Fast forward, and the stage got even bigger. Messi versus Ronaldo, Pep versus Mourinho. These weren't games so much as episodic sagas, tactical chess, theatrics, red cards, and world-class goals in front of staggering audiences. From 2010 to 2012 alone, they ran into each other 11 times across La Liga, Copa del Rey, and the Champions League. Every meeting felt consequential. Mourinho's psychology, Pepe's edge, Ramos's reds, Messi's daggers. And even after Messi and Ronaldo exited, the ember stayed hot. Vinicius Jr., Jude Bellingham, Pedri, and Gavi keep the temperature high. As long as Catalonia and Madrid tug in opposite directions, El Clásico will always be more than 3 points. Manchester United versus Liverpool. If El Clásico is the global blockbuster, this is England's eternal main event. Not a neighbourhood spat, an arms race for legacy. The roots go back to the 19th century city rivalry, industrial Manchester versus Liverpool's docks. When the Manchester Ship Canal opened in 1894 and bypassed Liverpool's port, resentment set. Football simply inherited the grudge. Liverpool ruled the 70s and 80s under Shankly, Paisley and Dalglish. League titles stacked high, European Cups too. United had the Busby Babes Law and their 1968 European crown, but Liverpool were the machine. Then Sir Alex Ferguson arrived in 1986, vowed to knock Liverpool off their perch, and did it. 13 Premier League titles, multiple Champions Leagues, and a global brand that wrapped the club around the world. After 2013, Liverpool roared back under Jurgen Klopp. Champions League in 2019, the long-awaited league title in 2020. The rivalry reignited, philosophies clashing, fan cultures contrasting, United, the worldwide juggernaut, Liverpool, the tradition-first choir of "This means more." Whenever they meet, Anfield or Old Trafford, the air is razor-thin, the table implications secondary to the need to one-up the other. Boca Juniors versus River Plate, Superclásico. Buenos Aires turns into a pressure cooker for this one. Boca, born in La Boca's immigrant working-class docks. River, resettled in affluent Núñez with the country's grandest arena, Los Millonarios. Class, neighborhood, and identity wrote the script before the first whistle ever blew. River own more league titles. Boca boast a heavier international trophy cabinet with 6 Copa Libertadores. The stadiums shake, colors blur into smoke, and the noise never dips. Away fans have been barred from league Superclásicos since 2013 because the edges get too sharp. And then came 2018. Boca versus River in a 2-legged Libertadores final, the biggest possible collision. After the first leg finished 2-2 at La Bombonera, the second was derailed by an attack on Boca's team bus. The shock decision moved the decider to Madrid. River won 3-1 in extra time at the Bernabeu, a result that still lives rent-free in the rivalry's collective memory. Titles, yes, but also bragging rights that last decades. Galatasaray versus Fenerbahçe, Intercontinental derby. Same city, different continents. Galatasaray on Europe's side of Istanbul, Fenerbahçe on Asia's. They've been orbiting each other since the early 1900s, and there's nothing mild about the gravity. Galatasaray historically leaned toward elite academic circles. Fenerbahçe drew strength from populist nationalist currents. Identities baked in, sparks guaranteed. The atmosphere, volcanic. Choreos, smoke, pyros, the kind of noise that makes players reach for earplugs. The folklore is wild. In 1996, after winning the Turkish Cup, Galatasaray boss Graham Souness planted a giant club flag into the center of Fener's pitch, forever iconic to one side, unforgivable to the other. On paper, the clubs trade eras of dominance. In Europe, Gala owned the major honor. UEFA Cup 2000, while Fina boasts deep domestic runs and a Champions League quarter-final 2008. Meetings are knife-edge occasions. Transfers between the two? Basically, taboo. Winning the derby can redefine a season, silverware or not. Celtic versus Rangers, the old firm. Glasgow proximity, but a chasm in identity. Celtic, founded by Irish Catholic immigrants in 1887, carry Irish heritage and a left-leaning identity. Rangers, 1872, are tied to Protestantism, British Unionism, and the city's conservative strand. This isn't surface-level symbolism. It's shaped neighborhoods and family trees, and the football rivalry became the loudest amplifier. Collectively, they've hoarded Scottish titles. Celtic's Lisbon Lions made European history in 1967 with a locally born squad taking the European Cup. Rangers claimed the Cup Winners' Cup in 1972 and piled up domestic silver. The matches themselves are ferocious, tackles that rattle the TV, card counts that could pass for zip codes. For decades, Rangers had an unwritten ban on signing Catholic players, finally scrapped in the late 80s. Flags and anthems tell their own stories. Irish tricolours and rebel songs versus Union Jacks and Loyalist chants. Authorities learned to schedule earlier kickoffs and mass policing. Love it or fear it, the old firm is the heartbeat of Scottish football. Derby della Madonnina, AC Milan versus Inter. One city, one temple, San Siro, two visions. AC Milan began in 1899. A split in 1908 over foreign player policy birthed Internazionale. Early perceptions painted Milan as working class and Inter as more patrician. Those labels faded, but the competitive symmetry didn't. Power keeps swinging like a pendulum. European pedigrees are royal. Milan's 7 European Cups, Champions Leagues trail only Madrid. Inter's 3 include the 2010 treble under Mourinho, Serie A, Coppa Italia, and the Champions League in one gulp. The derby's visuals are unmatched. Tifos the size of buildings and colour blocks that cleave the stadium in half. It has its flashpoints. In 2005, a Champions League quarter-final was abandoned after flares from Inter's end struck Milan keeper Dida, proof that emotion can tip into chaos. Recently, Inter seized the 2020-21 Scudetto. Milan hit back in 2021-22, and their 2022-23 Champions League semi added another heavyweight chapter. The city's fashion is elegant, the football, bare knuckle. Bayern Munich versus Borussia Dortmund, their Klassiker. Not a local derby, an ideological one, Dortmund stands for sweat equity, youth development, and the Yellow Wall's thunder. Bayern is the empire, revenue muscle, ruthless standards, and the gravitational pull on the league's best talent. Klopp's Dortmund broke Bayern's stranglehold with back-to-back titles in 2011 and 2012 and reached the 2013 Champions League final, only to lose to Bayern at Wembley. Then came the talent drain. Mario Götze to Bayern in 2013, Robert Lewandowski for free in 2014, and captain Mats Hummels later on. It's the recurring nightmare. Build something beautiful, watch the giant borrow the blueprints. The pain peaked again in 2022 to 2023. Dortmund had the title within reach on the final day, drew with Mainz, and Bayern snatched an 11th straight championship. Still, every meeting promises a chance to flip the narrative, and neutrals tune in because the football is fast, fearless, and frequently unhinged. North London derby, Arsenal versus Tottenham. A feud born from a change of address and stoked for a century. In 1913, Arsenal moved from south of the river, Woolwich, into Highbury, squarely in Spurs patch. When Arsenal were controversially voted into the First Division in 1919 and Tottenham dropped, the resentment calcified. Ever since, it's been bragging rights with fireworks. Arsenal owned long stretches, Arsene Wenger's high-wire artistry, the invincible season in 2003-04, and the unforgettable title clinched at White Hart Lane. Mind the Gap became the Gunners' favourite taunt. Spurs, under Pochettino, narrowed the gulf. Kane and Son lit up the league. A Champions League final in 2019 hinted at a power turn. The past few years swung back toward Arsenal under Arteta, but the derby never arrives with a favourite you truly trust. It's passion first, logic second. Le Classique, PSG contre Marseille. Paris versus the Mediterranean's firebrand. PSG struck with money, megastars, and a global sheen. Marseille answer with edge, volume, and a refusal to bow. This isn't a polite tactical duel, it's high fashion walking into a street fight. Red cards, touchline scrums, and febrile stands are part of the package. League One's fiercest fixture thrives on contrast. Capital glamour versus working class grit. New era super club versus eternal insurgent. Manchester Derby, Manchester United versus Manchester City. Once upon a time, United were kings and City the noisy neighbours. Then Pep arrived, City built a metronome, and blue became the city's default setting. Titles on repeat, a treble in the scrapbook, and a style that smothers. But the fixture hasn't lost its electricity. Every win feels like a referendum on who really owns Manchester. Pride doesn't check the league table. Derby d'Italia, Juventus contra Inter. Italy's never-ending soap opera. Power, politics, and plenty of courtroom subplots. Calciopoli, vacated titles, VAR flashpoints, and grudges that could fill a library. On the pitch, it's chess with shoulder checks, structure versus structure, detail versus detail, and every mistake amplified across a nation that lives football like religion. When these two line up, you can feel the peninsula hold its breath. Madrid Derby, Real Madrid versus Atlético Madrid. Capital versus capital, two worldviews in one city. Real are the Galactico mothership, Atlético the defiant, working-class badge of honor. In the 2010s, Simeone's Atleti kicked the door down, a league title, suffocating pressing, and a relentless, never-stop-suffering ethos. The clashes turned epical. Real beat Atleti in 2 Champions League finals, 2014 in extra time, 2016 on penalties, while Atleti's 2013 Copa del Rey triumph at the Bernabeu ended a long hoodoo in the most poetic venue possible. Different budgets, same obsession, hurting the neighbor. Derby della Capitale, Roma contro Lazio. Rome does theatre better than anyone, and this is the city's most explosive production. Curva Sud versus Curva Nord, choreos that swallow the Olimpico, and politics humming under every chant. The 2013 Coppa Italia final, Lazio 1-0 Roma, was a civic earthquake. Form rarely matters, pressure always does. In a league bursting with rivalries, this is Italy's purest civic feud. Emotion first, explanations later. El Superclásico de México, Club América contra Chivas. Mexico's national mirror. America are the capital's lightning rod, money, marketing, and a villain aura that fuels them. Chivas are Guadalajara's pride and stick to a unique rule: only Mexican players. Ideology is part of the kickoff. The TV audiences are enormous, the narratives evergreen. Identity versus ambition, purely domestic versus win at all costs. El Superclásico is where a nation argues with itself for 90 minutes. Cairo Derby, Al Ahly versus Zamalek. Africa's Colossus. 2 Cairo giants with fan bases the size of countries, silverware stacked to the ceiling, and a rivalry that's felt across the continent. The noise is operatic, the pressure generational. In 2020, they even met in the CAF Champions League final, the final of the century, with Al Ahly edging Zamalek 2-1. Security concerns have at times forced sterile settings, but even behind closed doors, the tension is unmistakable. In Egypt, football identity often begins here.